Silence is a force far more powerful than people realize. It is not just an absence of words, but a shift in energy, a void that demands to be acknowledged. When you remove your presence, something fascinating happens. Thoughts that were once ignored begin to surface. The space you once occupied in his life starts to feel different, unfamiliar, and unsettling. It's easy to dismiss words, to drown out noise with distractions. Silence lingers. It follows a person into their quiet moments, into the pauses between conversations, into the nights when they are alone with their thoughts. At first, he won't notice it in the way you hope. His initial reaction will be one of indifference, maybe even relief. If he has grown used to your constant presence, your messages, your calls, or your concern, he may not immediately feel the impact of your absence. He tells himself that this is just temporary, that soon enough you'll reach out like you always do. The pattern has always been predictable, and he expects nothing different this time. He assumes you are just giving him space, maybe even trying to prove a point, and he is confident that you won't be able to maintain it. But then something shifts. The human mind does not like uncertainty, and silence creates an unsettling sense of the unknown. Without words to confirm where you stand, without the reassurance that you are still thinking about him, he is left to create his own conclusions. And that's where the real shift begins. Suddenly, questions arise in his mind that he never had to consider before. Why hasn't she called? Why hasn't she checked in? Has she moved on? Has she lost interest? These thoughts start subtly, almost like background noise, easy to push away in the beginning. He distracts himself, keeps busy, maybe even enjoys the quiet for a while, but the silence follows him. The longer it stretches, the harder it is to ignore. The mind naturally fills in the blanks, and without any new information from you, he starts to wonder. The absence of your words forces him to reflect on the last interactions you had, to analyze things he never paid attention to before. He replays conversations, thinking about things he might have said differently. He starts remembering details he once dismissed. How you looked at him, how you sounded when you laughed, how you supported him in ways he barely acknowledged at the time. Silence has a way of magnifying the past. Things that once seemed insignificant now carry weight. The messages he ignored now seem important. The effort you put in, the times you were there, even when he wasn't fully present, now stand out in stark contrast to the emptiness he feels in your absence. Time has a funny way of reshaping perception. What once felt like an easy choice, taking you for granted, assuming you would always be there, now begins to feel like a mistake. This realization doesn't hit all at once. It builds slowly, day by day, growing stronger the longer the silence remains unbroken. The confidence he once had, the certainty that you would always be there, starts to crumble. Doubt seeps in. He checks his phone more often, not because he's expecting a message, but because he's hoping for one. He scrolls through old conversations, rereads texts he once skimmed over without a second thought. He notices things he previously ignored. Your tone, your words, the subtle hints that you were pulling away long before you actually did. He wonders if he missed the signs, if you had been trying to tell him something without saying it outright. By now, frustration starts to creep in. Why isn't she reaching out? He tells himself that he doesn't care, that he's fine without the attention, but the thoughts don't stop. The curiosity turns into concern. What if she's really moving on? He resists the urge to reach out because that would mean admitting that the silence is affecting him. But in his mind, the battle has already begun. The what-ifs are relentless. What if someone else is taking your attention? What if you found peace without him? What if he was never as important to you as he assumed? This internal conflict is exhausting. One moment he convinces himself that everything is fine, that you'll break the silence soon enough. The next, he is doubting everything he thought he knew. The emotional roller coaster is unavoidable because silence is not just an absence, it is a mirror. It forces him to look at himself, to evaluate what he truly feels, to recognize that he may not have been as in control of the situation as he believed. The hardest part for him is the realization that you are no longer within his reach the way you once were. He cannot predict your next move, cannot assume you will return. This unpredictability creates anxiety, and with each passing day, the idea that he might have lost you begins to feel more real. The silence has changed something fundamental. You are no longer seeking validation, no longer available at his convenience. And that, more than anything, is what keeps you on his mind. The absence of your presence has created a void that he cannot fill with distractions or excuses. Silence has a way of making a person confront the truth they've been avoiding. And the truth is, the moment you stop giving him access to you, he lost something he never truly appreciated until it was gone. In the beginning, he believes nothing has changed. He tells himself that everything is normal, that your silence is temporary, that it's only a matter of time before you reach out. The mind loves predictability, and for so long he has been able to anticipate your reactions. He assumes you are simply taking a break, maybe waiting for him to notice. But he doesn't worry. Not yet. His confidence remains intact, his ego unshaken. He believes he understands you, that you will eventually give in and break the silence. As the hours pass, he barely notices the absence. He fills his time with distractions, work, friends, social media. He reassures himself that nothing has changed. But as the first day fades into the next, something begins to shift. There's a slight disturbance in his thoughts, a small but persistent awareness that you haven't reached out. It's subtle, like an itch he can't quite scratch, but it's there. He ignores it, pushes it aside, convinces himself that he doesn't care. Yet, for some reason, he finds himself checking his phone more often than usual. He scrolls through his notifications, not exactly looking for your name, but noticing its absence nonetheless. A few more days pass, and his certainty begins to waver. He starts to wonder just a little if something is different this time. He replays your last conversation, searching for any clues he might have missed. He tells himself that he's only thinking about it because he's curious, not because he actually cares. But curiosity is a powerful thing. It lingers, it grows, and it refuses to be ignored. Soon, the curiosity turns into mild frustration. He assumed you would have reached out by now, that things would have returned to the way they always were. He doesn't like feeling uncertain. He doesn't like not knowing what you're thinking. For the first time, he starts questioning his assumptions. Maybe you're busy. Maybe you're upset. Maybe, just maybe, you're losing interest. He shakes off the thought quickly. No, that's impossible. You've always been the one to hold on, to fix things, to make the effort. He convinces himself that this is just a phase, that you're trying to make a point, that soon enough you'll break. But then something strange happens. Days turn into a week and the silence hasn't cracked. He starts noticing your absence in ways he never expected. The little things stand out, the lack of your messages, the missing presence in his daily routine. He used to take your attention for granted, barely noticing how often you checked in, how consistent you were. Now, the absence of those small gestures feels significant. His mind starts to wander to places it never did before. Has something changed? Are you pulling away? Is there someone else? At first, he dismisses these thoughts as paranoia, but the more time that passes, the harder it becomes to ignore them. His confidence is as solid as it was in the beginning. Doubt starts creeping in, slow but relentless. He catches himself wondering what you're doing, who you're with, why you haven't reached out. He checks your social media, hoping for some kind of clue. Are you sad? Are you moving on? Are you even thinking about him at all? This is when frustration starts turning into something deeper, uncertainty. And uncertainty is a dangerous thing. It makes the mind restless, unsettled. he begins to think about you in moments he never expected. He assumes the silence is temporary, but then he asks himself, what if it isn't? The thought is unsettling. It forces him to consider something he never wanted to admit. Maybe you were more important to him than he realized. The more he tries to shake the thoughts, the stronger they become. He wonders if he misjudged the situation, if he underestimated you. Maybe you're not just waiting for him to return, maybe you're done waiting altogether. This possibility gnaws at him, planting seeds of regret. He replays old conversations, searching for signs of your growing detachment. He remembers the times he brushed you off, the moments he didn't fully appreciate, the times he assumed you would always be there. Now his mind starts playing tricks on him. He wonders if you found someone else, if you've realized your worth, if you've decided that he wasn't as valuable as he once believed himself to be. The thought unsettles him in a way he wasn't prepared for. He thought he was in control, that he dictated the pace, that you were the one chasing. But now the silence is making him question everything. He starts debating whether he should reach out. He tells himself he won't. His pride won't allow it. But the longer the silence stretches, the more tempted he becomes. He wonders what would happen if he sent a message. Would you respond? Would you ignore him? The uncertainty is unbearable. And so the silence that once seemed insignificant has become the loudest thing in his world. At first, he feels nothing. The silence doesn't register as anything more than an inconvenience, a minor disruption in the way things have always been. He assumes you're busy, preoccupied, or simply taking a break. There is no urgency in his thoughts, no real concern. He may even feel a sense of relief, free from the pressure of responding to messages or engaging in conversations he once found predictable. In his mind, everything is still under his control. He believes that this silence will pass just as quickly as it began. But as the days begin to unfold, something inside him starts to shift. At first, it's subtle, a fleeting thought here, a passing curiosity there. He checks his phone, not necessarily expecting to see a message from you, but noticing when it isn't there. He tells himself it doesn't matter, that you're probably just waiting for him to make the first move. But he doesn't act. He doesn't reach out. He convinces himself that he is fine without you. As the silence stretches further, his confidence begins to waver. What once felt like a momentary break now feels like a void. He finds himself thinking about you at odd times, while drinking his morning coffee, while scrolling through his phone late at night, while listening to a song that reminds him of you. The absence of your presence starts to feel real, tangible, in a way he hadn't expected. He replays old conversations in his mind, moments he barely acknowledged at the time. The way you laughed at his jokes, the way you listened when he vented, the way you made an effort even when he didn't reciprocate. It all starts to replay in his mind like a film he never paid attention to before. Doubt begins to creep in. He starts questioning his assumptions. He was so sure that you would return, that you would break the silence first, that you couldn't possibly hold out this long. But the longer the silence remains unbroken, the less certain he becomes. Was he wrong about you? Had he misjudged how much you cared? He begins to wonder if you're waiting for him to make a move, or if you've already moved on without him. The emotional roller coaster intensifies as more time passes. He finds himself checking your social media, searching for signs of your emotions, any indication that you miss him, that you're thinking about him. But what he sees unsettles him. Maybe you seem unaffected. Maybe you're living your life without any indication that his absence has made a difference. Maybe you're glowing, thriving, unbothered, and that thought begins to gnaw at him. Because if you're fine without him, if your life continues effortlessly in his absence, what does that mean? The idea of being forgotten, of being replaced, of no longer holding significance in your world becomes a thought he can't shake. The silence, once insignificant, now feels deafening. He begins to feel emotions he never expected: resentment, confusion, regret. He finds himself replaying past interactions, wondering if there were moments he overlooked, warning signs he ignored. Maybe you were already pulling away before the silence began. Maybe he just didn't notice. The longer the silence stretches, the more his thoughts begin to spiral. At first, he was convinced that you would reach out. Now, he's no longer sure. He begins to think about what he could say to break the silence without appearing weak. He debates sending a casual message, something light, something that doesn't reveal just how much your absence is affecting him. But the more he hesitates, the harder it becomes to take action. He wonders if he has waited too long, if reaching out now would only confirm what he's afraid to admit, that you were stronger than he thought. The emotional shifts become unpredictable. Some moments, he convinces himself he doesn't care. He buries himself in distractions, in work, in social events. He tells himself that he doesn't need you, that he can live just fine without your attention. But then, in the quiet moments, when there's no one else around, the doubt resurfaces. He wonders why your silence bothers him so much. He wonders why, despite his efforts to ignore it, he keeps thinking about you. As the days turn into weeks, the realization settles in. The power dynamic has shifted. He was once so sure of your attachment, your devotion, your willingness to fight for the connection. But now that certainty is gone. And that terrifies him. Because if you are no longer waiting, no longer chasing, no longer seeking validation from him, then where does that leave him? The emotions fluctuate: pride, anger, regret, longing. He wonders if he should just reach out and end the uncertainty, but another part of him holds back, afraid of what your response might be. Afraid that maybe, just maybe, you won't answer at all. As the silence stretches on, something strange begins to happen. He starts thinking about you in ways he never did before. It's not just curiosity anymore. It's not just a passing thought. It's something deeper, something unsettling. The absence of your presence creates a space in his mind that he cannot ignore. It lingers in the quiet moments, in the spaces between distractions, in the silence before he falls asleep. At first, he tries to push it away, telling himself that it's nothing, that he's fine, that life is moving forward just as it always has. But the thoughts keep creeping back in, uninvited and persistent. He finds himself reminiscing about moments that once felt insignificant, the way you used to check in on him, the way you would send little messages throughout the day, the way your presence was always so certain, so consistent. He never thought much of it before. In fact, he may have even taken it for granted. But now, the absence of those small things feels unnervingly loud. It's as if he's suddenly aware of something he never noticed before. The weight of your attention, the comfort of your presence, the way you fill the spaces in his life without him even realizing it. He starts to wonder, did I overlook something? Was I too dismissive? Did I assume too much? These questions haunt him because they force him to confront something he never wanted to admit. He may have underestimated you. He assumed you would always be there, that your presence was guaranteed, that no matter what, you wouldn't pull away. But now the silence tells him a different story. It whispers the possibility that maybe, just maybe, you're no longer waiting. Maybe you've decided that your energy is better spent elsewhere. The realization doesn't come all at once. It builds slowly, creeping up on him in moments when he least expects it. When he sees something that reminds him of you. When he hears a song that once played in the background of a conversation you shared. When he scrolls through his phone and sees your name but no new messages. It's a slow unraveling, a gradual dismantling of the certainty he once had. He thought he knew how this would play out. He thought he understood the dynamics of the situation. But now, he isn't so sure. He starts wondering about your life in a way he never did before. Are you thinking about me? Do you miss me? Are you waiting for me to reach out? These questions loop in his mind, unanswered and relentless. He may try to distract himself, throwing himself into work, into hobbies, into other people, but no matter how much he tries to escape it, the silence follows him. It lingers in the moments between conversations, in the spaces where your voice used to be. Then another thought begins to take shape, one that unsettles him more than the rest. What if you're moving on? The idea hits him like a weight in his chest. He never truly considered it before. He assumed that no matter what, you would still be there, still holding space for him, still waiting. But now, he's not so sure. He starts imagining scenarios he never allowed himself to consider. Maybe you've met someone new. Maybe you've realized your worth. Maybe you've decided that he wasn't as essential to your happiness as he once believed. This is where the emotions begin to shift. Frustration turns into anxiety. Confidence turns into doubt. He catches himself debating whether to reach out, whether to test the waters, whether to see if he still holds the same place in your life. But something holds him back. Fear. Not fear of rejection. No, that would be too simple. It's fear of the unknown. Fear of realizing that he no longer has the power in this situation. Because if he reaches out and you don't respond, or worse, if you respond with indifference, then he will have to face a truth he isn't ready to accept. So he waits. He hesitates. He convinces himself that he doesn't need to make a move. That if you wanted to talk, you would have already done so. That if this silence is meant to end, it will. But deep down, he knows the truth. He is waiting for you to break first. He is hoping that at some point, you will give in, that you will reach out, that you will restore the balance of attention he was so used to. And yet, the longer the silence stretches, the more uneasy he becomes. Because for the first time, he isn't sure if you will. And that realization, more than anything else, shakes him to his core. He starts to feel something he didn't expect, an emotion that creeps up on him slowly, settling in his chest in a way that he can't quite shake. It isn't just curiosity anymore. It isn't just confusion. It's something heavier. It's regret. And regret has a way of distorting everything. It makes him question his choices, his words, his actions. It makes him see things he once ignored. It forces him to confront the fact that maybe, just maybe, he took you for granted. At first, he tries to fight it. He tells himself that he did nothing wrong, that he simply let things play out as they were meant to. He reassures himself that you were the one who chose to go silent, that you were the one who created this distance. He convinces himself that he had no control over this situation. But that argument only lasts for so long. Because no matter how much he tries to push it away, the regret lingers. He starts to replay moments in his mind, conversations that felt insignificant at the time but now seem loaded with meaning. The times you reached out first, the times you made an effort, the times you showed up when he didn't expect you to, when he didn't ask you to. And now, with the silence stretching further than he anticipated, he realizes how much those small moments meant. He begins to see the things he ignored, the patience you had, the understanding you gave, the way you listened, even when he wasn't offering much in return. He realizes how much you tolerated, how much you stayed through, how much you gave without demanding anything back. And suddenly he wonders if he was too careless, if he assumed too much, if he let something valuable slip through his fingers without even noticing. The longer the silence lasts, the more his thoughts turn inward. He starts questioning his own actions, wondering if there were moments where he should have responded differently. Maybe he was too distant. Maybe he didn't express his appreciation enough. Maybe he made you feel like your presence was optional, like your effort was expected rather than cherished. And now, with your silence as the only response, he begins to feel the weight of all the things he didn't say, all the ways he didn't show up. The regret deepens when he realizes that you were never obligated to stay, that your presence in his life wasn't a given, it was a choice. And now, with each passing day, he starts to suspect that you might be choosing something else, that you might be choosing yourself, that you might be recognizing your worth in a way that he failed to. This thought unsettles him. It makes him want to act, to reach out, to fix things before it's too late. But at the same time, he hesitates. Because if he acknowledges his regret, if he admits to himself that he mishandled things, then he has to face the reality that he was wrong. And facing that truth isn't easy. So he sits in his regret, uncertain of what to do with it. He wonders if there's a way to undo what has already been done, if there's a way to reset the dynamic, to go back to when he felt in control. But something tells him that things have shifted in a way he can't reverse, that the silence has changed something, maybe in you, maybe in him, maybe in both. And as the silence stretches on, he realizes something even more unsettling. Regret isn't just about what he did. It's about what he didn't do. It's about the moments he let slip by without saying the right words, without showing enough appreciation, without making you feel like you mattered in the way you deserve. And now, with no way of knowing what you're thinking, with no assurance that he still holds the same space in your life, he has to sit with that truth. The longer he sits with it, the harder it is to ignore. He thought regret would be a passing feeling, something that would fade over time, but instead it grows. It becomes something he carries with him, something that stays with him even in the moments he tries to distract himself. He wonders if there's still a way to fix it, if there's still an opening, if the silence is meant to be broken or if it's meant to teach him something. And that thought, that maybe this isn't just a temporary phase, but a lesson, begins to haunt him in a way he never expected. He thought he had time. He thought this was just a temporary silence, something that would eventually pass. His silence sends meaning. And so the pain, he convinced himself that you would return, that you would break first, that eventually things would go back to the way they were. But something is different now. The silence no longer feels like a waiting game. It no longer feels like a test of patience or a power struggle. It feels final. It feels like a door closing. And for the first time, he wonders if that door will ever open again. At first, he brushes the thought aside. He tells himself that no one walks away that easily, that you can't just erase a connection overnight. He assumes you're still thinking about him the way he's thinking about you. But the longer the silence stretches, the more he starts to question those assumptions. Because while he's sitting there wondering, overanalyzing, waiting, he realizes that you aren't. You aren't waiting. You aren't chasing. You aren't reaching out. And that realization does something to him that he wasn't prepared for. It starts to dawn on him that maybe you're done. Not in an angry, dramatic way, not in a way that demands attention or validation, but in the quiet, certain way that people move on when they finally had enough, when they've realized their worth, when they've decided that they no longer want to be an option in someone else's life. He starts to wonder if all this time he misunderstood the situation completely. Maybe you weren't waiting for him to change. Maybe you weren't hoping for him to reach out. Maybe you were simply walking away, choosing yourself over the cycle that kept repeating itself. This thought unsettles him in a way nothing else has. Because up until now, he always assumed he had control. That even if you were hurt, even if you were upset, there would always be a way back. But now, for the first time, he isn't sure. He doesn't know where you stand anymore. He doesn't know if the door is still open or if it was closed quietly while he wasn't paying attention. He checks his phone more than he'd like to admit. He looks at old messages, rereading them with new eyes, searching for something he missed before. He wonders if there were signs, subtle hints that you were slipping away long before the silence began. He replays old conversations in his mind, trying to pinpoint the exact moment things changed. And then a thought strikes him. Maybe you had been letting go for a long time and he just didn't notice. Maybe this silence isn't a sudden decision, but the final step in a process that had been unfolding for months, maybe even years. And that realization cuts deeper than anything else. Because if that's true, then this silence isn't about proving a point. It isn't about manipulation or punishment. It's about clarity. It's about you realizing that you deserve more. And for the first time, he sees the silence for what it really is. Not a game, not a challenge, but a statement. A declaration that you will no longer settle for less than what you deserve. He wonders if there's still time to fix things, if there's still a way to undo the damage. But another part of him knows the truth. Some things once broken cannot be put back together the same way. Some silences don't end with reconciliation. They end with acceptance. He wonders if that's what this is. If you've simply accepted that things are better this way, that life moves forward whether he's in it or not. He tries to imagine reaching out, sending a message, calling, but the longer he hesitates, the more difficult it becomes. Because now it's not just about pride or fear, it's about the uncertainty of what your response might be. He realizes that he doesn't know you the way he thought he did. That maybe, just maybe, he never fully understood your strength. Because while he was waiting for you to miss him, you were learning to live without him. And that thought, more than anything else, terrifies him.